Welcome back, everyone. This is Frank, Whiskey Charlie Zero Oscar, over here in Bolsa Chica State Park. Now, if you hear the wind blow by, it's because the wind is pretty strong right now, and the sand is beating on my car. So this video is about POTA activations while mobile. Not while driving, but while mobile. And one of the great things about being mobile and doing POTA activations, just like today, it gives you shelter. And I've activated this park before, and it gets really cold in the winter. And it also gets really windy. For whatever reason, it's always windy here in this part of Southern California. And so the great thing about POTA, of course, is that you get to speak to people from really all over the world. I had some contacts in Japan and also all the way to Spain. So it's possible. So here are some of the things that I've learned so far in the last 4 or 5 weeks that I've really immersed myself to get a sense of what it is to do POTA activations while mobile. One of them is not using your car battery. If you use your car battery, you might have a chance of really discharging your battery and not turning on your car. And that's because a lot of the times you do more than 10 contacts. You get really excited, you get really invested. It's like, there's an energy that you get, and all of a sudden you're already 2 hours into it, and you might have drained your battery. So having an external battery is always a good idea. I use a bioenno battery. They're very well built. Yes, they're not relatively inexpensive, but they have circuitry inside of it that you can do a couple of things. Like, for example, you could be using the battery, right, to run your radio, but then you can be charging it at the same time. Wow, that's pretty amazing. All the circuitry is there, built in. It has 2 ports. It has the Anderson power pole that is pretty much standard for ham radio in many ways, and that one can take and receive charge. And then you have your other port that will go into a break. So having a battery, external battery, is a good choice. Just like if you would go on a park. How much battery do you need? Depending on how long you're going to use your radio, right? So I have my IC705 with a 36 watt hour bioenno battery. It's one of the thin ones. That'll last me for a long time on 5 watts. But if I'm using my amplifier, which gives me 20 to 35 watts more, my MX P50M, that will drain my battery within 2 hours or less. You'll get to see that transmitting, of course, takes away a lot of power. But like, for example, today, where it's nice and sunny, you can have your solar panel, right? Which you can, as long as you have something to manage that, a solar controller, you can charge your battery while you're talking. Which leads me to the whole idea of how to manage your battery, your external battery. One way is if you're going between parks, you can use your 12-volt cigarette lighter, and that could definitely be charging your battery. The bioenno ones are really expensive. They're $100, and I've spoke to somebody in bioenno, and they told me that the brick, which converts also the electricity on the wall, that's sort of efficient as if you had the 12-volt version. So I'm sticking with, at the moment, with my brick, because what I like to do is I like to have the Jackardy, and the Jackardy that I have has a USB-C PD, which means that I'm able to plug in my laptop or my tablet, also USB-A for my phone. So if I need to charge my phone, these devices are very important for me, especially if I want to check the call sign of somebody, or even spot myself. And the computer can also give me other options, which we'll talk about. One of the things about the Jackery that is super cool, which you could build one actually. I built a solar generator myself, but the Jackery has a 12-volt socket, or a cigarette socket. You can charge your Jackery while you're driving, and the Jackery could potentially charge your radio. So it's a cycle. One thing that I do with the Jackery is that I charge it with the sun at home. I have a 50-watt solar panel, and that will charge my Jackery, and then Jackery will charge my bioenno batteries. And so I'm sort of, in many ways, off the grid when I do radio, which is fun. It's nice to brag a little bit. Once in a while, yes, I have to use the wall to charge the Jackery, but that's very rare. I think I've only done it twice. Okay, so one other thing that that you might want to have, of course, is a tablet or a computer. You don't need one. You can have a pencil and a piece of paper. That should be good enough. But the great thing about a tablet is, again, you can double check your call sign and such. But one thing that I really like is the keyboard. With a like an iPad, changing the keyboards to type the number is annoying, and sometimes I have not trained my ear yet well enough. So when somebody says Kilo 572 very quickly, right? Too many numbers there. I'm like, whoa, I don't understand. Can you give it to me again? Until I get my ear trained better, maybe the tablet will be good enough. I love the tablet. I have a mini, whatever it is, mini iPad. It's really nice. It fits into the bag. But lately, I've been wanting a keyboard, and so I got a Lenovo, one of these Lenovo laptops at Micro Center over here in Orange County. It was on sale. I like it. I'm liking it, and I'm using the internet. I don't remember if this particular beach has internet or not, but I do know that T-Mobile does work in this area. Okay, so tablet, battery, in the car and outside the car. Then the next thing I would suggest is figuring out what type of antenna you're going to use for mobile. The antenna that you choose is going to be very important, because the car and the ground creates a ground plane. And the way you have your antenna set up, you'll be surprised how efficient or inefficient it is. I tried many different antennas: shark, hamstick, diamond. None of those really did very good for me, and I don't know why. I'm really surprised, especially like the diamond antenna. I don't know why it didn't work out very well. But the number one antenna that I would recommend, and of course you always have to verify with other people, is the Hustler, the RM20S or something, the resonator, right? Again, if you go to your local ham store and you say, I want a resonator, they're like, we don't sell that. And you say, I want a Hustler. Oh yeah, we have those. Well, Hustler is the company, but the resonator is the item. So the resonator has been awesome. It goes on a mast, and it really has a great angle at which it propagates. I did not believe verticals would be the thing that gave me the most propagation. I've dealt with different types of antennas in the last 3 years, And this mobile antenna has been great. But 3 years ago, the solar cycle wasn't that great. So things have changed. I mean, we had a solar index of in the 70s and the 80s 3 years ago. Now it's in the hundreds or more. So there's quite a difference in time. So I don't know if the antenna really is that better. Who knows? That goes into the whole thing about having an additional antenna. One of the things that anything can go wrong, and if you drove somewhere and your antenna doesn't work, you should have a backup. And I have a backup. I have a quarter wave ground plane antenna that I could put on a mast, and I have a mast holder where the tire holds it. I'm definitely going to try that one day where the wind is not blowing too hard. And that's going to be my backup. And I've done that before, and it works okay. It's not great as if it was like separate from the car or hanging from a tree. I've had excellent experiences when the antenna is really set up like it's floating in the air. So having that is very important. One tip to note: if you're going to use a vertical antenna, make sure you have a choke. It's possible you don't need one, but if you're using, usually when you use a vertical antenna, it's probably going to be compromised. It's probably going to have a coil. You'll probably get some common current on your cable. And that has happened to me many times where I don't have the choke. It doesn't do a great job, especially when you're reading your SWR. Yes, I know SWR is not everything about propagation, but it does tell me if it's resonating with the radio. You'll find out that a lot of the times when you go mobile, you'll get some, for whatever reason. This is my experience. You will get some common current. And so with the choke, it gets rid of that, meaning the current doesn't go on the skin of the coax that goes into the radio. That messes up the radio. And when you're transmitting. As a matter of fact, on a windy day like this, I've been on this particular state beach, and it was something like this. I believe it was here. It was really windy, and I had a choke on my antenna, and I had some interference. I had this gurgling sound, which by the way, it's a good idea to have a headset. Because in a headset, when you monitor yourself, you'll find very quickly if your transmission is gargled. If it's gargled, it's probably the common current, maybe, most likely. But anyway, this situation where there was a lot of wind and dust, when I was using my headphones, I had that gargling sound that wasn't that great, and I figured that I already had a choke. So what's the deal? Well, for a slight second, I said, "Oh, great, something's wrong with my system. I'm gonna have to, maybe something's broke." But I said, why not put another? I had a toroid. Why not wrap the coax around the toroid and see if that helps? And sure enough, it did. I guess sometimes when you're outside and you pick up charge, and when you touch something like in metal, that charges with you and it discharges. That was probably what was happening. The wind and the dirt probably had some charge. It went on the coax and it was running into my radio. And so having the headphones was invaluable to me, which leads me to another idea that having a box in your car with some items like an extra toroid, an extra antenna, pencil, maybe wire cutters, things that you sometimes might need, is always useful. Screwdriver and such. I wouldn't recommend that. You, let's say, set up at a bench or something, right? Because that's a lot of items to have. And I like to have, just a backpack and just go. But if you're in the car, you might as well have those extra items that will help you in your delivery all right, or your activation of the park. So having these items, right? An extra battery, managing your battery with maybe another like a battery generator, the type of antenna you're using, the headphones to monitor, the PC to spot yourself, or to gain access or information of your call signs if they're correct. All these things have been very useful for me. The one thing that that has happened to me that I haven't figured out, and if you have any ideas, that would be great, is 40 meters. 40 meters, for whatever reason, is very hard. And if you read people's blogs and read, other people's experience, 40 meters is very tough. Sometimes you need a better ground plane, or you need to try a magnet mount, which I really don't want to use at the moment because I might not be able to get that off. I should be able to, but some people say it's really, really hard to get off and it might scratch your car. Is it really worth it? Well, during the day, 20 meters should be sufficient. At night, it would be great to use 40 meters. And that's one other thing too. And I'll make a video about my POTA experience in the future. But one of the things I've discovered is here in Southern California, right, when the sun goes down, let's say during the summer, it goes down like at 8 or something, or during the winter, it's around 4:30. By the time the sun goes down here in Southern California, a lot of people back east, I think, just be like, you know what? I don't think nothing's going to propagate, and I'm just going to stop. Sure, it's 5 o'clock here. It's 8 over there. Who's going to be listening to the radio? I get it. But it's funny that when in contests, 20 meters is still going at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock during the winter, very briefly, or even other parts of the world. So I think 20 meters doesn't really close down so much. It does, but I think it's still possible to communicate. It could be kind of challenging, but I think it's possible. Okay, I think that's about what I have to say in terms of being in the car and activating parks. I think you'll enjoy being in your car, in the safety of your car, when you're activating a park. Okay, so I hope this was entertaining, useful. If you also do POTA activations with your car, write something down. Give us your point. What antenna do you use? What some fun things have happened to you in the car? And maybe, there are some other tips that you can give us. I'm sure there's one or two that I've totally forgotten about, but I'm sure I'll talk about it in another video. So thank you very much for hanging in there, supporting my channel. The channel's growing very quickly. We're very close to 5K, and I appreciate everybody joining this channel. If you have any questions, please leave them on the comments. I hope you have a great day, great summer, and I hope to speak to you. This is Frank, Whiskey Charlie 0 Oscar.